Before I start, if you find yourself enjoying the video, please consider taking a second to leave a like. It really does help me out. I spend a lot of time on this channel talking about some truly amazing visual novels, and I enjoy really showcasing the wonderful things this medium has to offer. But not every VN is one that's actually worth reading. And that's what I'm going to look at today. I went to VNDB and sorted by rating, but starting from the bottom, and I picked the very worst one. A freeware femdom nookie called Teacher in Training, where more than half of the ratings are a 1 out of 10. And those tags. Oh, that's bad. Oh, that's worse. Oh, that is fucking unforgivable. I'm gonna be real with you. I did not have a good time with this one. It seems like this title was tailor-made for me to hate it, and it ticks so many boxes for things that actively repulse me. But I'm determined to give this thing a fair review, so let's do this. So I know that most of you come to this channel looking for writing analysis and stuff like that. Well, I'm not really going to be able to do that here because there's quite simply not enough here for me to work with. The entire thing, including all 3 endings, is like a half-hour total, and like many nookie, most of it is either H-scenes or the setup for more H-scenes. The plot itself, if you can even call it that, is paper thin, but I think there is still some stuff to talk about. And I want to be clear about something. In this video, I'm going to be pretty mean because, spoiler alert, Teacher in Training sucks. But I don't want that to be misconstrued as an attack on the developer. I have absolutely nothing against them on a personal level, and I do not want any of you sending any negativity their way. If you have something you just have to say, do it in the comments of this video, okay? So with that out of the way, let's get started. Firstly, on a technical level, Teacher in Training is a complete mess. Before even starting the game, I checked out the useful hints and tips text document included in the game files, and it's actually kind of hilarious. By the developer's admittance, full screen breaks the UI and they don't know how to remove the functionality. The close button crashes the game, and they didn't leave any room for a quit to menu button when designing the UI, so they just decided to leave it out and instead bind the quit to menu function to the escape button. Except they couldn't get that to work and just decided to leave it as is. And it doesn't get any better when I actually start the game. The text box occasionally cuts itself off. Lines of dialogue get truncated seemingly at random. There is no proper options menu, meaning I couldn't so much as adjust the volume. Dialogue options are layered above the menu UI, meaning that they can get in the way of saving and loading, and need I remind you that dialogue choices are exactly the time you would want to save. And on top of that, the UI buttons have about 7 pixels between them. So that begs the question, why exactly is this thing so buggy? Despite its many flaws and displays of gross incompetence, this title does actually seem like it had some genuine effort and, dare I say, passion put into it. So why is this thing less functional than even most shovelware asset flips? And with a bit of digging, I think I figured it out. Teacher in Training was made with the Novelty visual novel engine. Now, Novelty is an abandonware engine made for older operating systems. I'm talking as old as Windows XP, and it never left the beta stage. So why exactly did the developer of Teacher in Training choose an unfinished visual novel engine that had apparently ceased development 3 years before this VN was released? Well, my guess is it's because Novelty is entirely UI-based with 0 programming actually required, which could actually be a pretty amazing tool if it ever got finished. Because even the RenPy engine, which is generally agreed to be the easiest engine to work with for serious projects, does require some scripting, which can be intimidating to someone with no experience. And my guess is, given that the developer was unsuccessful in even setting a hotkey, they probably don't have any programming knowledge whatsoever, and Novelty allowed them to make their projects regardless. And I'm also guessing that a combination of an unpolished engine and a developer who isn't really capable of debugging resulted in a very unpolished end product. Now, fortunately for you, but unfortunately for me, these technical issues don't outright break the game, so I was able to get through the entire thing. And let's talk about these visuals. The backgrounds are actually pretty okay for the most part, about what I'd expect from an indie freeware project. The MILF character's sprite isn't terrible either, not to say it's very good, it's just more competent than I was expecting. And that's where the positives end. The children are these wannabe Toho looking motherfuckers. I can't show any examples, but the explicit artwork is crudely drawn to the point where even if you're into this kind of thing, this isn't going to get you off. And on top of that, I don't think the artist has ever seen a foot in their life. I mean, come on. These aren't feet, they're butternut squash. Ultimately, this is a story that fails to be visually interesting in any way. Even for those who actually have the various fetishes that this story panders to probably aren't going to enjoy it. It's just kinda ugly all around. And the sound really isn't much better. The music is fairly generic atmospheric stuff. Not terrible, but not great. And just for clarity, I didn't record any audio because I'm certain the audio was not done in-house, and I just don't know if the music will cause copyright issues. And the sound effects are interesting because clearly these were professionally made audio assets that the developer licensed, but they were placed in the VN with no attempt at anything resembling sound design. Some sounds, like the ruffling of pages or slurping, play on a loop for far longer than is necessary, and it seems like the sound files play all the way through and there's no kind of cutoff point. The farting scene, I fucking suffered for you by the way, used multiple different sound assets, and I'm pretty sure each of them had different post-production effects applied to them. And of course, volume was an issue since, again, the developer clearly doesn't understand audio engineering very well, and there is absolutely no way to adjust the volume yourself, so you can't even fix it. I mean hell, even Ren'Py games all include separate sliders for music, SFX, and voice. The program just doesn't look or sound good in any capacity. And of course, I've got to address the writing. This is a story that's made for people who have a fetish for extreme femdom, humiliation, and the various excretions of the human body. I very much do not like that stuff. In fact, most of the explicit content made me cringe, and one scene made me physically gag to the point where I had to get through that section by looking at OBS on my second monitor, because the recording window was smaller and I might have actually vomited otherwise. So I am not the target audience here, and I understand that I have a pretty strong bias against this kind of thing, but even taking that into consideration, I don't think Teacher in Training actually achieves what it set out to do. So there are 2 routes with 3 endings, and I actually had wildly different experiences with these 2 routes. Because one of them is just gross, but the other is so ridiculous that I feel it scrapes the border of so bad it's good territory. So the idea is that the main character was just hired by an elementary school as a TA. In the one route, he's manipulated by the teacher into becoming her sex slave, starting with smelly foot worship and farting until she tells him to move in with her. At which point she chains him up and he spends the rest of his life as a human toilet. Fucking ew. This was an absolutely miserable read, and the only saving grace is that it was mercifully short. And what little character work is actually done makes me legitimately believe the main character is brain damaged because he is very clearly unhappy about his situation. But instead of making the obvious choice, that being fuck the job and get out of Dodge, he moves in with the woman who has been tormenting him, thus giving her 24-hour access to him. Like, what the fuck did he think was gonna happen? But overall, fucking awful stuff. Hated it. The other route is a wild-ass ride. It starts out with one of his students, who by the way is a fucking 2nd grader, extorting him into letting her give him a hand job and then tricking him into a chastity cage that she has for some reason. And the best part is that the extortion isn't some horrible secret that she can use for blackmail. No, she literally just threatens to tell the teacher that he's not helping her with her schoolwork. And this works. Again, how the fuck is this guy so stupid? And how does he think this is gonna end? But officer, the 7-year-old made me do it. No, I'm sorry, but if you're that kind of person who can get manipulated into that kind of shit by a goddamn elementary schooler, you really shouldn't be a teacher. God damn. The situation eventually escalates, and the girl's friends also get involved and proceed to utilize a vast collection of adult toys and even an iron brand that they somehow have access to. Seriously, who is buying them these things? Actually, come to think of it, it's probably the teacher. Anyway, this continues for some time until they ask if he'll agree to be the class pet, and there's one more dialogue option for 2 different endings. If he refuses, you'll get the closest this VN has to a good ending, where they do release him, but not before the entire class repeatedly kicks him in the nuts. The results are best described by what now might be my favorite line of narration in any visual novel because it's fucking hilarious, but I don't think the writer meant it to be, which makes it even more hilarious. I didn't have the balls to take a look or feel my groin area because I knew it would confirm that I'd have to use that figure of speech literally from now on. I mean, I'm assuming it says from now on, but of course the narration doesn't fit in the text box and got truncated. The other ending is if he stupidly agrees, at which point they keep the MC locked in the closet and the teacher makes it a class tradition to continue abusing him. This goes on for 20 years until the teacher retires, at which point the dude is sure that he'll finally be free. Only to discover that the new teacher is one of the students from that first class, and she's wearing a strap-on that is literally bigger than her torso. I'll have a censored version of that sprite on screen, and just know that I am not over-censoring for comedic effect. That is literally the size of the dildo.
There is only one thing worse than a rapist. Boom. A child.
That man was onto something. Now look, this route was also pretty gross and pandered to some fucked up fetishes, but it got so ridiculous that I couldn't help but laugh. And I want to be very, very clear about one thing. I am not laughing with this VN, I'm laughing at it. Even with the slight enjoyment I got out of laughing at all the dumb bullshit, this is not something I can recommend in good faith, even as a free title, and even if you're actually into this kind of thing. It's not good. I'm sure you can get your fix from better sources. All I'm saying is there's a reason that Teacher in Training is VNDB's lowest ranked visual novel. That being said, I will leave a link to the VNDB page down below because I don't trust that linking the developers page won't get the video taken down. What you can do is if you show this VN to your insurance company, they will pay for your therapy because it is clear that you need it. That is not legal advice. And one last thing, I genuinely do not recommend anyone read this VN. There is nothing in it that makes it worth your time. But if you ignore my recommendation, I only ask that you please check your local laws before downloading it. Due to the age of some of the characters, there are countries in which this is very much illegal, and I do not want any of you getting into trouble. And there you have it, the worst visual novel on VNDB. Thanks for watching. Big thank you to my patrons, especially my God tier supporters Bulk Squat Thrust, Fatima, and Michael Rotolo. If you want to join them and get early access to future content, check out Patreon down below. Aside from that, you can reward my suffering by leaving a like and subscribing to the channel, and if you use super thanks to leave a highlighted comment, I will read it out in my next video. All that being said, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Play the Electro Swing.
Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back.